New Outlook feature, China in your inbox. New Fortinet, never mind, you know exactly what I'm going to say. And plugging in a USB is a lot like arguing on the internet. 50% chance of being right, but also 100% chance of getting it wrong. These stories and much more on today's episode of MSP Dispatch.
Build the Impossible at CompTIA ChannelCon 2023, running August 1st through the 3rd at the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. Join other technology innovators and peers to solve problems and create new opportunities in 3 days of learning, collaboration, and transforming your business and career. Speakers include Eric Anthony, Aaron Chernin, Vince Chrysler, Bob Coppage, and ChannelCon's 2023 keynote speaker, Mick Ebeling. Be inspired, build the impossible. This $1,200 value is yours at no cost when you register with promo code SBOIT23 or scan the QR code on your screen.
Good morning and welcome to the July 14th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I'm Orsini, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Tony Francisco. How you doing, Tony?
Excellent. Tell me what's going on with you, my friend. So much news happening everywhere. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. What do you got going on?
I have two questions. One, have you ever put a USB-A drive in right the first time ever?
That's impossible. No, you can't do that.
It's almost like the design is so specifically we don't take random USBs and plug them into our computers, right? But I'll use that as a tease for story 3. But what I'm more interested in talking about is I'm a little frustrated. Robots are taking our jobs yet again. Chipotle came out. They have built a robot with this company called Vebu to peel avocados for eternity. Now, avocado, I was just talking to Phil, I don't think that's the most difficult fruit in the world to peel, but I also don't do as many avocados as Chipotle. And of course, can you guess the name for this machine?
Please tell me.
Autocado.
Just listen. Just for the sheer sake of coming up with a name, you got to invent it after you come up with a name. I don't think they invented it and then came up with a name.
Oh no! Somebody put those two things. They were in AutoCAD and they were eating avocados, and they're like, "Avocado, we can do this." And then they absolutely, I'm with you. The robot idea definitely came after the name.
That's funny.
You know, some names are so good, you just got to build something. Speaking of building something, China is trying to communicate with us in a new way.
And in my first story from darkreading.com, Chinese APT cracks Microsoft Outlook emails at 25 government agencies. The story was suggested by David Sespinar on the MMN Discord channel. Microsoft has quelled a cyber espionage campaign conducted by the Chinese threat actor group Storm 0558 that gained access to email accounts across 25 Western government agencies, including the U.S. State Department. The group, known for its custom malwares, Bling and Sigril, forged authentication tokens to pose as authorized Azure Active Directory users. The hacker targeted specific officials' email accounts. Although Microsoft has remedied the key issue that enabled the hijacking, the extent of sensitive information access is unclear. The campaign demonstrates a significant shift in Chinese cyber espionage from broad, detectable campaigns to stealthy operations, indicating a more sophisticated adversary. Microsoft has contacted all known victims and states that no further action from customers is required. Ray, we've talked about the script from the hackers. Once we see something, we know there's a lot of other somethings, and we won't understand or have visibility to those somethings until much later. I believe you came up with the incredible term of being LastPass. That is a perfect example. In this particular case, we knew they were working on something, and now we're starting to detect the other somethings. Do you anticipate this is the only direction they're going to go, or are we just going to keep seeing these somethings that maybe we haven't seen before?
So this does remind me of the LastPass conversation we had, where my question is the same. Are there more bugs because of poor coding practices and QA practices, or are they just being discovered more quickly and being reported more quickly? Either way, bugs bad, right? Like that's pretty standard, right? Bugs are bad. But, at the same time, I wonder, is this a sign of better transparency and good stuff, right? Like we've seen this with Cloudflare, where Cloudflare is very transparent about something that goes on. And we've all been on the other side where a vendor's had an outage or a bug or whatever else. And they're like, we're looking into it. We'll get back to you. We're looking into it. We'll get back to you. Not many people are affected. Even though they took first names, last names, date of birth, social security, blood type, and mother's maiden name, none of the private information was taken. You're safe. You know what I mean? So like when I see this stuff, I don't get so upset, because again, it was discovered, it was disclosed, which is what I asked for, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. Am I just being too nice?
No, it's not a matter of being too nice. I think your ambient annoyance that we've had with ransomware and hacks and frankly just bad practices has now become ambient paranoia and or almost anticipation of the next thing and who's it going to be, and it's going to probably be within touching distance. I would love to say that there are better ways to enforce authentication, that there's better ways to limit vulnerabilities, but the reality is, once somebody is there, they can do anything they want. And so the question really comes down to, once they have been authenticated, they forged authentication credentials or the tokens. Once they're there, what other exploits were caused once we're in there? Because we're only talking about the penetration of that iron curtain, that veil that they couldn't get through. And I think you're spot on where, frankly, we're going to start seeing a combination of other things that were just not discovered until this point. We're going to start discovering them faster, and we're also going to start discovering other deeper exploitations that occurred that was triggered from the initial, in this particular case, the stealing or the forging of an authentication token. From a security perspective, this is absolutely terrifying to me, but we've been talking about this literally for the last, 132 episodes? 131
like
episodes.
And I feel like we're talking about it again for the next 150, so...
And with that very unfortunate, just kind of everyday story, what are we on from? The good news is that as we proceed, it's not always bad news. It's good news. People find something, they stop it. And I think Fortinet did a great job on that, right, Ray?
In our second top security story, Fortinet warns of a critical RCE flaw in FortiOS, FortiProxy devices, written by Bill Toulis of Bleeping Computer. Fortinet has discovered yet another CVE impacting FortiOS and FortiProxy. The exploit allows remote attackers to perform arbitrary code on vulnerable devices. Cybersecurity firm Watchtower discovered the flaw and is tracking it under CVE 2023-3308 and has assigned a CVS v3 score of 9.8 out of 10. The exploit is yet another buffer overflow attack that can be triggered by sending specially crafted input that exceeds the buffer's capacity to overwrite critical memory parameters relating to functions. The flaw impacts FortiOS versions 7.2.0 through 7.2.3, 7.0.0 through 7.0.10, FortiProxy 7.2.0 through 7.2.2, and 7.0.0 to 7.0.9. Fortinet has clarified the issue was resolved in a previous release without a corresponding advisory, so it does not impact the latest release branch of FortiOS 7.4. Fixes for CVE 2023-3308 have been provided for several versions, including 7.2.4 and above, 7.0.11 and above, FortiProxy 7.2.3 and above, FortiProxy 7.0.10 and above, and the Fortinet advisory advised that FortiOS products in the 6X range are not impacted by the CVE. CISA also published an alert that we will link to below. The fix is either a firmware update or disabling HTTP/2 support on SSL inspection profiles, with examples in the links below. Tony, it's hard to even take these seriously anymore because Fortinet is definitely becoming LastPassy. It is the gift that keeps on giving. yay, they put it out. I wonder if CISA doesn't put this stuff out because there's been so many people affected so many times with Fortinet devices, that they're just realizing this is a big swath of the technological ecosystem, and they want to make sure as many eyeballs get it as possible, especially given the number of other issues they've had. Normally, I think Fortinet devices are good quality. I mean, what's your takeaway when you see something like this?
So here's an interesting fact. The average person will spend about 5 months of their life waiting for red lights to turn green. Just do the math on this and go research it. I'm not joking. 5 months of your life is going to be waiting for red lights to turn green.
You know, you say sometimes it makes me depressed. You know?
Well, allow me to retort. How many months of our life are we going to spend talking about Fortinet and LastPass attacks? At least two.
At least another 150 episodes from now.
So when we back up just a hair and we go back into the previous story, and something that we talked about could be, like a real catharsis for everyone, putting the format of this thinking, this logic into what we just talked about with Fortinet. Are we seeing more attacks, or are we just detecting them faster, or do we have new ways of finding them? Is the communication better? Have they been suppressed? And maybe the slap on the wrist, the mea culpa, if they get caught, is getting to the point where now there's some what's that called? Morality, and actually telling their customers, where although the perception is topically not so good, it's for the betterment of everyone to communicate, here's the flaws. As I say, just get the turds out on the table, be done with it. Everyone understands that, hey, we're all human, things happen. Thank you so much for telling me. And if you have a way to remediate this or a path to resolution, so much better for everyone. But withholding it has been commonplace. So I guess, Ray, from your prophetic statement, are we just seeing this stuff faster? And does this mean we're going to start seeing a lot more of it?
I would like to say I liked the consistency in being transparent and sending out information. That's great. I don't love that they fixed this flaw that they knew existed in a previous version and didn't give out any advisory. Because when you do stuff like that, it kind of undermines the credibility the company has, right? It's no different than SolarWinds blaming an intern on the password being stored in the GitHub or the repo, stuff like that. Transparency is nice. Don't make me question whether I can trust you, right? And especially when it comes to something like a firewall. Firewalls are much more complicated. Proxies are much more, load balancers, packet inspectors. These are much more complicated things to switch out than a password manager, right? If it's software, you can swap out software pretty easily regardless of the software. Hardware, a little more complicated, especially in some of the bigger gear. So I don't see. I think if we do compare this to the LastPass event, right? Because at this point, they've earned those spots. The sheer number of events over and over again, good, bad, or otherwise, you guys are in a rut. They earn those spots there at the top. But I don't think the MSP response will be as severe as it was with LastPass. Why are you still using Fortinet? Because Fortinet has a very long history also of being very secure products. It just seems this past year and a half has been, they took all the turds you put on the table, Tony. I mean,
they said, LastPassy, hold my beer.
LastPass, gassy, Fortinet. You know what? I'm tired of talking about Fortinet. I want to talk about something nice like USB. I'm so happy USB-C exists. USBs make my life much easier, right?
Yeah. And in my second story from bleepingcomputer.com, USB drive malware attacks are spiking again in the first half of 2023. According to a report by Mandiant, there has been a threefold increase in malware delivered via USB drives in the first half of 2023. The study highlighted two significant campaigns, Sogu, linked to a Chinese espionage group, temp.hex, and Snowy Drive, associated with UNC 4698, which focuses on Asian oil and gas companies. The victims of Sogu malware span various industries across several countries, with the malware attempting to steal data from infected systems. On the other hand, Snowy Drive uses a backdoor to execute arbitrary payloads and perform file and directory actions. USB attacks continue to be relevant due to their ability to bypass security mechanisms, infiltrate corporate networks, and affect isolated air-gapped systems. Print shops and hotels have been identified as infection hotspots, but any system with a USB port is potentially at risk. Ray, I talk about hyper-segmented, air-gapped safety mechanisms, and all that went out the window because somebody's going to go, hey, let me plug that in and let that peripheral be completely infectious to everything else that plugs in. What's safe? Just help me, Ray. Just help me.
Are you telling me I got to get rid of this? This is brought me so much happiness. No, I laugh because I made this comment. I don't remember if we were at MSP GeekCon or IT Nation Secure. It was a conference. I'm pretty sure it was GeekCon, where I was looking for a USB. I needed a USB drive to give the AV guys something, and nobody had a USB drive. Not one. And I'm sitting with Slagle, Tom Lawrence, Martin Keir, Mendy Gray. I'm sitting with a bunch of nerds. It's 30 of us sitting in the main auditorium, like prepping stuff. Nobody had a USB drive. So it makes me laugh because yes, I used to have those, tons of USB keys everywhere. I never did the lanyard thing. I'm not that much of a nerd, but I always had the USB drives on me. I had the ion drives, right? So you'd put an SSD, but you could load it as a CD or DVD or whatever. And I had, just like I used to keep the DVD booklets and the CD booklets with the software, but I haven't used a USB drive in probably 3 or 4 years. Definitely not to the same extent, right? Now the drives, you know how this was 5 years ago. Everybody at every conference, everywhere gave you a branded USB. I have a bunch of my old MSP Orsini IT branded USB drives, right? I'm sure there's some Cloud Plus and some other stuff. Okay, but that's my point though. That's different. So
I won't plug it. But I won't even plug in power and from LOL cables to like I've been working on the magnetic side. I just love the connectivity of that, and I'm done with it. No one's safe, and frankly, if I was sitting around and you said, hey, do you have a USB drive? Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of them because I buy packs, I use them once, and I'm done. That's it.
Well, still, like, that's the thing. Like the larger SSDs, right? The larger SSD USB drives, that's a different story. You're not going to find these on the road, right? Like that's not, you know what I mean? And even if I did, I'd definitely not plug anything into that. But just like the USB thumb drives, like this goes back to what, Mr. Robot? Like that was the whole thing. Oh no, it was a CD. It started with a CD that had music and it had malware on the CD that ran, which is based on a true story. It was a Paula Abdul CD. Played it when the first CD got released. When you played it, there was some tone on the track, on one of the tracks, that caused problems somewhere. I got to find it. Phil will link it in the show notes. We'll talk about it in the MSP Media Network Discord, where we talk to tons of other MSPs about crazy stuff like yelling at hard drives and making them slow down to Paula Abdul dancing cats and cracking computers. So are you on the Discord, Tony?
I as a matter of fact, I have been. I have to go back in Discord. I've got too many things. Too many things. I
get it. Hey, look, as a news organization, we have a lot of stuff to track, so I get it. I can only recommend to you what the Illinois education system did and what countless others like CISA have done. They just follow MSP Dispatch and talk in our Discord, and then they learn about all the current events. So, and with that, why don't we get into some notables, Tony?
We got a lot of notables. Let's get into it. And in my first notable mention from darkreading.com, critical VMware bug exploit code released into the wild. A critical vulnerability VMware ARIA operations tool for cloud management known as CVE 2022-20864 can now be exploited by threat actors to run arbitrary code as root without user interaction. VMware has previously patched the flaw in April and is urging users to apply fixes promptly to protect themselves against potential attacks. With VMware being a popular target among cyber attackers, applying these patches becomes crucial for the safety of cloud operations. And in my next notable from bleepingcomputer.com, Apple has released an emergency update to fix a 0-day exploited in attacks. Apple has released Rapid Security Response, that's RSR, updates to address a new 0-day bug, that's CVE 2023-37450, that has been exploited in attacks and affects fully patched iPhones, Macs, and iPads. The vulnerability, reported by an anonymous security researcher, is present in WebKit browser engine and allows attackers to execute arbitrary code by enticing users to open web pages with malicious content. This is the 10th 0-day flaw Apple has patched in 2023. The company has temporarily stopped pushing RSR updates due to some services, including Zoom, Facebook, and Instagram, showing, quote, unsupported browser, end quote, errors in Safari on patched devices.
Hey y'all, I'm Phil Buck, and for AI Roundup today, from Futurism's The Bite by Victor Tangerman, Sumit Shah, CEO of Indian e-commerce platform Dukhan, has faced online backlash for firing 90% of his customer support team, attributing their redundancy to the superior efficiency of an AI chatbot. Despite Shah's claims of improved response times, several users criticized the decline in customer service quality, suggesting that the layoffs were a result of a business failure rather than AI advancements. Shah expressed no regret over the decision, though admitted he regretted announcing it on social media. This move has sparked concerns about the future of jobs in the face of growing AI technology. So, of course, we hear of these concerns all the time with the likes of Midjourney stealing work from artists, but once again, it looks like tech and administrative jobs are the most at risk. At the same time, we've seen moves like this backfire big time, such as when the National Eating Disorder Association replaced their entire staff, who was on strike at the time, with a chatbot named Tessa, who quickly began giving problematic advice to users seeking help with their eating disorders. What do you think, MSPs? Are chatbots the future, or is this just the most recent way to cut costs and cut corners? Sound off in the MMN Discord, and have a great weekend, y'all. I'll see you next week. There are plenty of amazing upcoming events taking place across the community, so let's see what's happening this week. On July 17th, an in-person event, Fantastic Forum Live Academy in Fort Worth, Texas. And on July 18th at 8 a.m. Eastern, Cybersecurity Summit, Next Gen Now. And also on the 18th, another in-person event, Kaseya+Datto Connect Local in Boston, Massachusetts. And coming from the MSP Media Network this week, we have, on July 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, MSP Community Live, Episode 3. And on July 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern, another installment of Pitch It 2023 Vendor Spotlight featuring threat and compliance risk. And as always, on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, MSP Dispatch presented by the MSP Media Network.
Hey, I'm Powerhouse Ray.
And I'm Super Cousin Danny.
And we're the hosts of
The Tech Bar.
Pull up a stool with us every other Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern for drinks, jokes, and games with your friends in the MSP channel. So how'd you like today's show? If you liked it, hit the thumbs up button. And if you didn't, go and hit it 3 times. And if you want to hear more, go and take that USB drive out and then hit the subscribe button on the YouTubes or your favorite podcatcher. Did you know we also have a Discord where we post stories all week? You can propose your own stories and even vote on which ones we'll cover. As my friend Rich Banky says, make sure to tell a friend. Also be sure to follow us on social media at MSP Media TV. Have any questions? Email news@mspmedia.tv for answers on the next episode, or leave us a voicemail, 833 MSP Network. All right, Tony. China's in our outlook. We have USB drives that we can't touch, but to save the day, we have Avocado. So
Avocado. Avocado bots. Assemble.
Roll out.
Form of
Chipotle is more than
massive
meets the eye,
avocado
so.
peeler.
Oh, it's just No, I'm there's a Chipotle like a mile down from my office, and I'm strongly considering just passing by just to ask if they have an avocado machine. If they do, I will take video of it. I'll see if they let me do like some selfies with it, and I'll have it on dispatch on Tuesday. But don't, according to the article, it's not rolled out everywhere. So, that
we eat our own
just hope
cooking.
and pray
Is
for
that
me.
we eat our own
If
reporting?
not, I'll do what I always do. I just take the avocado and take a knife and pray I don't stab
That's too much.
in the hand.
Too much, Ray. Come on, that's inhumane. Why? Friends don't let other friends manually take out the avocado. You need the avocado.
We need the avocado coming to the MMN store. But for now, thank you, MSP audience. We appreciate you like we do every day. Till next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Be safe, everyone.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.
The campaign demonstrates a significant shift in One more time. The campaign demonstrates a significant shift in Chinese cyber espionage from abroad, detectable from abroad. Okay, one more time. Microsoft has contacted all known victims and states that one more time. Microsoft has Ray is next. Here we go.
Cybersecurity firm Watchtower discovered the flow and is attacking. Damn it.